Pleasant day to you and welcome to another episode of Jnn Insight. I'm your host, Michael Sharp. On today's program, we take an insight, if you may, into gangs, their impact on Jamaica, its economy, its democracy, and of course our families. Joining us in today's discussion is Superintendent Anthony McLaughlin, and we'll be joined in a little while by ASP Coolidge Minto of the Ministry of Education, seconded there. Thank you, sir, for making it.
You're welcome.
Definition from the get-go, what is a gang?
Well, the simple definition, a gang is a group or an organization of 3 or more persons whose main intent is to commit criminal activities or an act of delinquency.
Okay.
And delinquency, which is not really a crime, you could be a group of persons, 3 or more, getting together, doing graffiti on walls, disturbing the neighborhood or something. So, which is not really a crime, but once they have that common design.
Yes.
Also, the gang must have what they call a common design. They must go by a common name, a common sign, or
like tattoo type of stuff, yes.
Right. So if that is absent, the language they speak, then we cannot define it as a gang.
It's not just a rough tag group that comes together. They have to have some kind of internal hierarchy and formation. Does it include that, or can be ragtag?
It depends on the category of the gangs. There are 3 categories of gangs. They have the first generation, which is more or less so a group coming together with a common design, of course, but the hierarchical structure is not there yet. So their main aim is to control a turf and for economic benefit, right? So they will be involved in things like extortion, petty robberies, and so on, just to survive. Then you have the second generation, which is more an organized type of gang that has an hierarchical structure, and their main aim is to control turf, but they're involved in drugs and other activities which will bring financial gains to them.
Yes. And
then we move on to the third generation, which is a highly structured gang, highly structured organization. This gang is more or less transnational, so they will operate in different countries across the world. And their main aim is for financial benefit, recognition, and so this is a more powerful gang because they have tentacles all over, in the Caribbean, in North America, right across.
Now let me see if I understand the learning, and thanks for the insight. There are 3 generations of gang.
Yes.
One could easily say the early formation of a gang, because it seems as if it develops and get deeper. As long as you're in it, then you can go national, and then you can go transnational.
Right.
Do we have transnational gangs in Jamaica?
Yes, we do have transnational gangs in Jamaica.
Well, we know the Shower Posse was one.
That was.
Does that gang still exist?
Remnants of it.
Remnants
of it.
So it's almost like a hydra head. You cut off one thing and a little
and
piece
will
grow up. Let me just
and
jump.
there's one too. It's being investigated now. Is the one that the counter-terrorism and organized crime dismantled in Westmoreland the other day. The Dexter Street.
Yes.
That's a transnational gang because its leader is in North America. And so it can be described as a third generation gang because it's not only affect Jamaica but other aspects of North America.
I put it to you that most of the gangs have elements of, let me come up with this new word, transnationalism, if you may. Because where the guns come from? No, overseas.
They come from overseas.
And they come. Not just the guns, but the amount of bullets.
The financiers are, in most cases, living overseas. So So a man may be involved in a gang here in Jamaica, and then he moves to somewhere in America, Europe, and he decides that the only, or one of the ways in which he can contribute to his community is by sending guns and
in a barrel,
not
cornflakes and sugar and flour.
Exactly. And you will be amazed to see some of the ways in which these firearms and ammunition come to Jamaica.
Yes, I have no doubt I would be amazed.
Yes, you would be amazed.
So, in other words, from the initial go here, I'm getting the sense of that a gang is 3 or more persons.
Yes.
Number 3 again, first, second, and third generation
as relates to the category of gangs.
And we do have some transnational gangs here. Even those the heads that have been cut off, they're still little offshore, offset. But I would like to think that there's a transnationalism as it relates to the sending of firearms, the financing of them, because these guys have bullets, and I guess everybody's getting back the name shower to shower you with bullets again. All right, let's get that out of the way. How many gangs are in Jamaica?
Based on the JCF statistics, we have approximately 354 gangs in Jamaica.
354. 354.
354. Of that amount, we have about 76%. That is 264.
264.
That are active gangs. And when we say active, it means that they are involved in daily activity, extortion, murders, and you name it.
Yes.
Right?
The geographical boundaries for these gangs. You have a gang in St. Thomas and Portland?
Every divisional, each division has a gang. But
might be first generation.
Might be a first generation.
Okay,
gang.
but it's
yes.
The word gang. Are we too loose with the definition here? Because it can be a group of guys who occasionally do a thing, and that's still first generation.
Once they come together to commit criminal activities, or as I mentioned earlier on, to do some acts of delinquency, then yes, it's seen as a gang, right? But they may not have what it takes to move beyond that first generation category.
Okay.
Right? Because although it's not organized and there's not a hierarchical structure, but there has to be some amount of leadership there to move it forward. It's loose. So and that's one of the characteristics of the first generation.
Yes.
It's unstructured, it's loose, and therefore that is when you will see the gang members go all over the place, and they are the ones who are easily caught.
All right. Help me with these definitions. A clique, a gang, and a ring. Because very often we hear the JCF put out thing, they've broken up a car ring. But isn't that a gang?
It is a gang. But they're specialized in stolen motor vehicles, in stealing cars, yes. It is a gang.
Okay. A ring is a gang.
It is a gang.
Okay, because every so often I hear they break up a car ring.
But it is more a cliche that we use, that we use ring, we use clique, but based on the definition of a gang,
yes.
All those clique, whatever we refer to them as,
yes.
It
was interesting, in the days of the leader of the Tivoli gang, if you may, the Shower Posse, who now rests in some prison overseas. His office was called the Presidential Clique. I suspect it was a derivative of the word clique. So I guess they've been using the words themselves.
Yes, and that is one of the characteristics too of gangs. They will use words, some terminologies which are common among them, but they understand each other. It's like a code. You see some domino players playing, you can beat
yes,
them, they have the code.
Yes, they have the code,
that's
yes.
similar to a gang. They speak in a particular way. They have signs which they can identify among themselves. So these are some of the things. So the names that they give to some of their offices and, the places of a board, are all aspects of gangs.
Which would you consider to be the most notorious gang or gangs in Jamaica at this time that causes CTOC to pause and say, have to get those guys?
We still have some of the what I would call the traditional gang. The Klansman is still there. Okay. The One Order is still there, and one of the ones that we just brought down, the Dexter Street gangs, and there are a couple others. But those are some of the major gangs right now in Jamaica.
Yes, that's the ones who are bringing them big armory there
Right.
that will seem to fight the state. Geography now. Geography. I did pick on Portland and St. Thomas because they're such blessed places to visit. You don't get the sense of people coming to extort you or anything. Geographically, where most of the gangs are placed, where do you find them?
We have a lot in Area 1.
Area 1.
Right, and Area 1...
Help those who don't
Area
understand.
1 covers St. James Division, Hanover, Westmoreland, Trelawney. And then we have Area 5. And Area 5 covers St. Catherine North. That is mainly Spanish Town. Yes. We have Constant Spring, we have Portmore, and we have St. Thomas. But St. Thomas has gangs, but not those high-profile gangs.
First generation.
First generation.
Baby boys.
Maybe up to a second generation.
Yes.
And then we have Area 3, but mainly in Clarendon. Area 3 covers Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, Manchester. But we find that we have most challenge in Clarendon than the other two parishes.
Yes, well, and the murder toll speaks for itself.
And then we have Area 4, which is Kingston and St. Andrew, broadly. And that is Kingston West, Kingston East, and those places.
Give me a sense of, these gangs. There was a time when these gangs were aligned to political parties. Do you find much of that going on, or have they gone independent, or the political parties distancing themselves? What is the reality of that?
You see, these gangs are not dependent on the political parties anymore, because one of the reasons, or the main reason why the gang normally aligned or associate themselves with political parties is for financial benefit. Yes. These days, because of the lottery scamming, the extortion, the drug running, they need not depend on the political parties for support. And I'm not saying that the political party directly are used to directly support them. Yes. But the reality is that their alignment would see some benefit coming to some persons within the gang arena, indirect benefits.
Can just turning a blind eye be one of the indirect support?
It is, and we know of a fact that the two gangs that I mentioned earlier, and the Klansmen and the One Order, we know that it is said that these two gangs are aligned to the two major political parties.
The PNP, One Order, GLP.
Yes.
I mean, we know that. We're going to name it. We're afraid of it.
Right. But what is not clear and what we can't assume is how it is that they benefit financially from these parties.
Maybe it's a historical umbilical cord. We're going to take a break on that baby business, because we're dealing with first, second, and third generation gangs. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the business of gangs. Why do people go into gangs? We'll be right back. Welcome back to Jnn's Insight. We're looking into the business of gangs. We've been speaking with Superintendent Anthony McLaughlin, and we are now joined by ASP Coleridge Minto. Welcome, Mr. Minto. I know you darted to get here, and we appreciate that. The issue of the business of gangs, the financing of these gangs, where does the intelligence tell us that it's being financed from, and it clearly is worth it. Crime pays, as far as they would be concerned.
Yes, the gangs are financed by gang members who live overseas.
Green money.
Green money. So if you look at if you look at the remittances,
yes,
then that's one of the ways in which the gangs are financed, are supported. Then some of them are involved in contract killings.
Contract killings.
Yeah, that's a well-known phenomenon. That's a feature of some of the gangs.
It's a coolness.
Coolness,
yes. Because you don't often know me just kill
yes.
McLaughlin because me not like him. And,
yes.
And him say, "What boss?"
Yes. Yes. And then we have the illicit sale of DVDs. You're driving on the street, you're walking downtown through Harvard Trees, through any of the town centers.
No, hold on, pull up there a little bit now. You're saying that illicit trade selling of DVDs. So when I see those little guys with their boxes with a nice music play out and it sound like a champion sound, is somebody send them?
Many of those are sent by gangsters, right? They get their financing through extortion. In recent times, you would have heard that CTOC has been clamping down on the illegal sale of cigarette, the counterfeit goods. That's another way in which gangs are financed. So there are several ways in which these gangs make money.
Of course, you can't leave out extortion.
Extortion is one of the major things.
The fear of being
right.
hurt by these gang members.
That so-called security that
yes.
they offer.
Send on.
Yes, yes.
And of course, it goes down to other issues as well. Mr. Minto, why do people join gangs? Why these little boys join these gangs? I see they put out a thing, a gang is a dead end. Really?
Thanks, Michael. Well, this week we're using the theme, gang life equals no life. And based on our intelligence and the research that we have, including academic research and intelligence from the JCF, a number of our students, they join gang. One, they find a place perhaps that is putting them in a comfort zone. So they find a space where people are empowering them by giving them a gun, by making them feel as if they are more important than perhaps what the family setting that they are coming from. And so you find a number of persons recruit gangs, and they recruit a lot of these boys from dysfunctional homes, boys and girls in some cases, where they want an opportunity to be who they are. So you find a youngster that is in a school, is dropping out of school, and he finds himself in a gang, and all of a sudden he was a nobody, and he gets a gun and he feels as if he's very powerful and starts doing a number of illegal activities. And so this week is largely about sensitization and allowing our parents, first it's dubbed prevention in a big way, but also empowering our parents, our administrators to understand some of the features, some of the things to look out for. When a mother sees a young boy or a youngster comes home with an item that can't explain, how do you come by this item? Where did you get the money from? It's not necessarily a gang, but it is certainly should raise their antennas to say, let me inquire more to see, is my child involved in some sort of illegal activities? And so looking out for, unexplained items that they can't account for, looking for whether or not they've changed their mode of dress and whether or not it mirrors any particular group in the community. simple things like have they started wearing a particular sign, a tattoo, a symbol that they never normally wear. Those are some simple things that, again, may not necessarily in a gang, but it is indicative that they do more to say, are you involved in something?
What do we, my understanding and my reading and research suggests to me that at-risk youths are more likely to join gangs. Is it, again, a situation of the broken home? I mean, are we not putting too much pressure on this poor little lady to be, she's busy trying to make a living, and here she must notice her son, just as she hardly see him. When him come in, he must sleep, you know. Help me with that.
Well, you know, the home has a lot to do with it. It's not the only factor, and we shouldn't say it's the principal factor. It's certainly where a child is not in an environment that is conducive to the growth and development of the child, then other influencers or influential issues will come up, and they are likely to go along where they feel that they can get the comfort, they can get money. So, Michael, all of a sudden a boy can't afford a proper shoes. The family can't afford it. But now he gets himself with a group who will give him 6 pairs. That is going to help to shape him if he does not have inculcated strong values, strong morals, and it is going to sway him perhaps in the wrong direction because he no longer has to, mommy can't afford it. Here's another alternative that is giving me more than what I even bargained for.
So it goes back to the home, because in most of these homes, the fathers are absent, and the mothers, who in most cases are single parent, and some of these single parents, they tend to look after themselves first. The big hairstyle, the party, the dance, the leaving the children them at home. So there is a need there to be filled. One, love, emotional support, educational support, because when you send a child to school, that child doesn't have lunch money, doesn't have the book, and is rejected by the parents, but you send them to school because it's
you want better for them.
You want, well, yes. Not really that you want better for them, but it's because it's a law then that you send your children out, but you don't take the book, you don't find out, you don't go to PTA, you don't, you just ignore them, you just send them because you want to get them out of the house.
The family infrastructure
is not there.
Help me though, and I say this, with no ill intent. I put it to you both that gangs are spawned in inner cities for the most part. True or false?
True.
Discuss. That's a question. Discuss.
So like a pep question.
But based on what I just said, and based on what we have been saying, that neglect of the child or the children's need, that in itself, they're at risk. These children are in need. They're in an environment where they see all sorts of criminality. It has become the norm for them. Hearing gunshot is like hearing somebody singing and praying in some other communities. So it has become the norm for them. They are being exposed to the dismantling, the use and handling of a gun. Right? And as Mr. Minto earlier on said, when their mother cannot afford a decent pair of shoes, a good night's dinner, and here is somebody who is aligned to criminal activity, can provide a shoes for this person, give them a KFC, give them some lunch money to go to school, they are going to be drawn to those persons.
Help me. The discussion makes it sound simple. I'm aware that the JCF has a recruiting process.
Yes.
Gangs have this recruiting. Is it ad hoc? Are there people looking out and saying, "All right, that guy is from. Let me check his antecedent." How does that work? Yeah.
Well, we had a series of intervention earlier this year with the CTOC, and sponsored through the USAID program, and I must mention that. And we engage CTOC and Dr. Herbert Gale from UWI.
Yes.
And we went across all 6 educational regions, and we brought principals from all the schools. So we didn't profile any particular school. We brought all 1,000 principals across schools in different sessions for that. And Dr. Gale pointed out from his research that gangs recruit students as young as age 8 and 9. And that is significant. That was backed up by the presentation from CTOC and NIB. So it's very critical that we're doing the interventions not only at the secondary schools, but we're moving to the primary schools and even beyond. Our minister speaks a lot about early childhood education and the first 1,000 days. We have to start forming character very early. And that is why, when I speak later on, I'll talk about some of the intervention. But the Police Youth Club, for instance, we have launched them in a early childhood institution, which was traditionally, Police Youth Club was a community event. We brought them into our school in 2016, and now we're at the early childhood. We're going to have to infiltrate the system. As we're looking at the dropout of school, the at-risk in the communities, we have to also look at the cohort that is coming up to ensure that we are putting them and steering them in the right path. So there is, I believe, they're very strategic in how they recruit. And perhaps, like how we do, they look for the opportunities. They look for persons who are vulnerable, persons who they believe that they can get on their team. And they start the recruitment early, and by the time they go into teenager life, some of them are full-fledged gang members.
Gangsters.
But again, if we look at, the old people say nothing for nothing. So when the gangsters are taking care of these youngsters by giving them money to go to school, giving them this pair of shoes, they're subtly recruiting them.
Yes.
Yes. And the females, they recruit the females from a very tender age so that later on they can sexually exploit them, because that's another feature of some of the gangs.
We'll return. We're going to be talking about how do you get out of this and what are some of the preventions, because it's not just about looking at gangs. What do we as a nation do about this? We'll be right back on Insight. Welcome back to Jnn Insight. Our topic, gangs. What do we do about them? Our guests, Superintendent Anthony McLaughlin and ASP Coolidge Minto. We left off when you mentioned the issue of females. We tend to go off believing it's all boys. So what's the role of the female as it relates to gangs, separate and apart from, I suspect, sex?
Support. Outside of sex is support. They support the gangsters. They are the ones in many instances are upfront. In negotiation, if they're in extortion, they are the ones who will drop off the letters, who will go collecting the money. They are the ones who will lure, like if you have an inter-gang feud, in many cases the females are the ones that are involved, because the men, they will lure the men from one side to the other, from one gang to the other. So
not just to set them up, but to bring them over.
To bring them over, to set them up, to bring them over. So they are really involved. And some of them, in recent times, they move with the gangsters. Like there is one now that is going around, robbing people. A female is involved. Because it's easy when, especially those with the taxes, the so-called taxes, when they want to get the females, the fact that the females, the students, or whosoever, see a female in a car, they feel comfortable to go into that car.
They drop
their guard.
Yeah.
And so the female is there playing a critical role in luring the female for these guys to rob them.
But they don't, the point of view of a gang member is not that they're in a gang. They justify it by saying them have to look at food. Their man have to hold the corner. And when things go on, them come demonstrate and say, no, I'm not going. So they play that, role as well. In terms of that. How easy, or is it easy at all, to get out of gangs? What have you found, Sir Minto?
I want to look at it from the perspective of behavior modification, because it is, in some cases, there are persons who would have committed serious offenses and they must face their day before the justice system. There are others who are aligned to certain groups, they are aligned to gangs, but they may not necessarily be involved, deeply embedded. And therefore, those are the persons we have to target significantly, and that is why the prevention strategies that we're using now, the anti-gang week, certainly I want to believe that persons who are embedded in a particular culture or a trade or an activity may not be very easy to come out, especially where there may be threats involved and persons feel like there's a sense of obligation. So somebody fund you through a couple of years of school or university or wherever. You feel a sense of obligation. It's not very easy to break ties from that. And that is why where we're targeting now is a number of our students through the behavior modification programs, looking at alternatives to some of these activities, to deviant behaviors, and to see how we can help them. The police may have a different perspective because, like I said, where persons have committed offenses, then you have to enforce the law. Where you haven't got to that stage though, and that's where we have to try and do a lot of correction.
Those are on the edge.
Those that are on the edge. Those are going on a particular road, but they haven't gone there yet, and we have to try and rescue those persons.
But for those who want to come out of gang, who are involved, deeply involved, one of the things that we suggest is for them to relocate. So let's say you're living in Spanish Town and you want to move away from gang activities. You can either go to another parish, you can fly out and go live elsewhere, and report it to the police. Say to the police that I've been involved in gang activities, I want to come out, and the police will assist you. There are several ways in which the police can assist you.
Plea bargaining?
We can assist you, whether through plea bargaining, speak to a pastor.
Yes.
Go to a church. Say, I am living a life, I used to live a life of crime, and I want to come out now. I am finished with it. And the pastor, the church too, will assist you. But most importantly, I think, you must have that resolve to move away from it, and then come to us as police, and we can guide you in the right direction.
Is there a number? Is there a connection that somebody's watching this now and will say, well, I feel obligated, I can't come out, I want to come out, I see what them doing, it's not right. Who do I get in touch with?
You can get in touch with CTOC, which is 967-1389. You can speak to the superintendent who is in charge of any one of the divisions. You can find a police, and I'm one of them who think that you can find a police anywhere in Jamaica that you can trust, you can sit and talk to. Go and speak to a pastor, a bishop, a reverend. Speak to somebody in the church. Find a justice of the peace. Find a school principal. Find somebody who you can trust. Sit down and talk to them, and they will assist you.
Has this ever happened, or is this a pine?
It has happened. On numerous occasions. Persons want to come out, they would come talk to the police, and we will assist them, will guide them, point them in the right direction. And there are several times when pastors will come and say, I have somebody who wants to give up a gun, who wants to change his lifestyle, and we would have assisted.
Somebody would want to make mischief and say, oh, maybe that person have committed so much murder now they want to come out of it scotch-free. Do they not pay for that?
Well, depends. We can route it through the Director of Public Prosecution, And as you mentioned earlier on, plea bargaining, you know, I can say here that the person can come out scotch-free, but definitely the person can be held in whatever way.
And it will mitigate whatever.
It will mitigate.
Meaning
Yes.
make it less.
Yes.
The type of thing.
Yes. But definitely though, for someone who has not been on the radar in terms of committing crime, then that is easier for that person.
Easier. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But if you're deep and your name are call up,
If
call
you're
up,
deep and your name is calling up, you come just the same. We sit with you, we sit with the Director of Public Prosecution, and we look our best.
Yes.
You know, your situation can be dealt with.
Yes. I want to start early with the preventative measures. I'm putting it to you, Mr. Minto, that it's going to be almost like a treadmill, or just like, you know, just passing out people. Because if you can't settle the homes, if moving to another place and flying out is very expensive and dear, as we would say in Jamaica, that your task is a task unlimited.
Perhaps if we start with some fundamentals, and there are a number of things that we're doing, but the first thing I want to speak about is the whole matter, and I mentioned it earlier, values and attitude. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is actually rolling out in a massive values and attitude. I don't want to use the word campaign loosely, but certainly we're promoting that. We do have now a number of initiatives geared towards values and attitude, and we're pushing that not only in our schools, but through the National Parenting Support Commission and through the respective PTAs. So we can reach values and attitudes through these organizations, through churches, through schools, and start building back that fabric of society with values. Then that work, the work we're doing, will actually become easier over time. That aside, there are a number of other things that we're doing. We have 1 week of activities. We obviously will not solve the gang problem in 1 week.
I am now proclaiming on this program that I'm giving a decade of anti-gang, so I'm not limited to a week.
Okay.
So don't feel rushed.
Right.
I'm not limited to a week. Yes.
So a number of things that we're doing post this week. We selected 150 schools across all 14 parishes, and the number was really selected in honor of the JCF 150-year celebration. And so we've been doing presentations in all the schools, and it is expected that we will continue.
What you're telling them? Tell them, preach to them.
Well, there is a anti-gang presentation, a standardized presentation that was done by CTOC, and we circulated that to all our school resource officers and the CSS officers right across the island. And so yesterday was the day that they were in schools.
What's in the midst? I'm trying to steal because I'm limited with time.
Right.
What you're telling them through that package?
Well,
what is the message?
so the anti-gang message is going to start with the theme like gang life equals no life.
Yes.
And it is going to feature matters relating to behavior change, alternatives to gang life, and it is also going to point out features of a gang and what to look for, because whilst we engage the parents, 2 students in a particular class, one of the best observations should be, I'm home sitting beside Anthony McClocking, who said, I notice his behavior has changed, and I can say, miss, sir, so we're empowering our students to also be able to identify if they notice one of their peers going down a particular road. And if we can, through early prevention, pick up those signs and help to catch that child before he goes way down or too deep, then we will have a better.
Going to ask you to hold a bit because we're going to come back to our final section right after the break. We'll be right back on Jnn Insight. Welcome back to Jnn Insight. We're talking gangs, and we're told that a gang is more than 2 persons. So, we get biblical, where 2 and 3 are gathered in his name. Where 2 or 3 are gathered to do wrong things, and you got a gang on your hand. But 2 and 3 are gathered this morning to look at some of the solutions. And SP Minto, I'm going to ask you to continue with the issue of empowering the peers, the students, what do? They see a guy going strange. You don't want to be, the worst place you want to be a squeal in school.
No, but this is why if we get our students to understand what a gang looks like and what are the features of a gang, then they will be able to help their peers.
Run that by me again. So
the strongest.
What are the features of a gang?
So, a change in behavior is perhaps one of the most noticeable. A child who is perhaps talkative becomes silent, or vice versa. They may change their style of dressing. They may start wearing certain tattoos or certain symbols that you didn't see before.
Start bleach.
Right, and I'm making the distinction because I know you have a public listing. It doesn't automatically mean because somebody wears a tattoo they're part of a gang, but it is perhaps indicative if you see a number of these things. What CETOC did earlier this year was they developed a simple checklist. Say, have you ticked this? And if you tick most of those, then you're saying perhaps the child is involved in gang. And so
so there's a list that you can.
There's a little checklist that we look for.
A checklist. As Mr. Minter mentioned, the wearing of tattoo, the alteration of clothing,
unexplained items that they wouldn't have. How did they come by it? Or a change of behavior. Simple things that you don't need to be an expert to do it.
And to be, you must have this in a gang because so you become a gang. You identify with a common look, talk.
They have common features.
Activity.
Correct.
Yes.
And one of the feature is like if two students are in a problem and one goes out and gets other person to come in to assist him or her in the fight, then that's a clear indication that there's a gang there.
So we're looking at the initiation. We're trying to prevent that, and we're saying, so you go to the administrators, you go to the council, the guidance counselor with that and say, listen, are they so trained and moved to accept that the child?
Which is why the intervention started at the top with our administrators, our deans of discipline, and we'll go further because in July, the Ministry of Education, we even included CETOC and Dr. Gale in the back-to-school conferences. So we had bursars, we had over 3,000 persons being sensitized, and I'm using the word sensitized, in anti-gang initiatives. But I want to go a little further though. How do you get our students to be empowered? The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is rolling out a massive expansion of uniform groups. And how is this going to help a youngster? Jamaica Combined Cadet Force has 3,000 cadets. We're proposing to increase that to 10,000 over the next 3 to 5 years. St. John Ambulance, which was traditionally not an in-school group, we're working with, and Colonel Khan, I can call him, with his group now to go in school, and they're going to teach you the basic things, first aid, CPR, and so forth. We have the Scouts, and they are in 80 of our primary schools, and we're working with them to expand that. The more students that you have that are involved in uniform groups, and this is just one, you're empowering them now about life skills. We have been rolling out a curriculum that's called Health and Family Life Education, HFLE, and there is now an inclusion of safety and security in the Health and Family Life Education curriculum. So what is it we're doing? We're teaching all our students about life choices, how to make decisions, how to, what we call coping skills. This is not just maths and English or social studies. It is about life choices. And the more we can empower the students through HFLEs, through uniform groups, through behavior modification programs. I mentioned one. Professor Hicklin has a wonderful program that is at the primary school. It's called Dream a World. He's already in about 80 of our primary schools. And so we have a number of interventions that we're using in our schools to empower our students to make better decisions. And the data is showing we've seen reduction in critical incidents. The Dream a World program, all the students on the program, we get an annual report. They have progressed, they have better grades, and they have improvement in student behavior. The National Education Inspectorate report also indicated that student behavior is improvement in our schools. So we have to continue the conversation, we have to continue the dialogue, we have to continue to work with our students. And this is why the church service, when we launched it, we brought the president of the National Student Council because they have a voice in terms of what we're doing if we're going to change the narrative in a couple of years. So a number of things are happening, Michael, and we're optimistic that this initiative is going to go way beyond just the period now and continue way beyond. You mentioned during the break, and I want to just perhaps bring in the music industry, the entertainers. They have a significant role to play in terms of influence of our children. And this is why one of the initiatives that we're doing is bringing certain entertainers, obviously, on board, and they will be carrying a particular message for us during this anti-gang initiative to help to spread a positive message. We have a number of other groups, including persons who have been reformed. That some persons who have spent their time were saying, a gang is a dead end. A gang, I've been there, I've done that. I don't want you to follow the path that I've taken. We believe those initiatives. And the final thing I'll comment, and then Super will, is the matter of, we started a conversation with poverty. And let me say to Jamaica, we are aware that we have a number of persons living below the poverty line. It should be no excuse for children not to be in school. The ministry has been supporting, especially our part students. We cover fees, we cover a number of things in terms of meals, and I'm saying to our parents, send the children to school. The K-13 strategy that the ministry is rolling out is to ensure that students are in school up to age 18. If we can keep all our students in school for the period, there is a higher probability that we will not have the sort of things that we're faced today.
Yes. Sustainability, sir, because we're coming down to the wire now. We talk a good talk, we have recognized it, we have empowered people who are watching. Look out for these things, don't take it for granted. How do we sustain this beyond this show, beyond January? What are the marks that we'll know we're improving? Well,
the police has a gang reduction strategy. It's based on 5 pillars, but the one which we're focusing on as it relates to the students, it's the suppression and diversion pillar.
Suppression and diversion
strategy. That is where now our intention and what we have been doing is to roll out strategies to suppress the formation of gangs. And for those gangs that are already out there, we're trying to dismantle that. In terms of diversion is what we are partnering with the Ministry of Education with now to ensure that we have a culture change in the children. Because let's say we have lost this generation. Yes. It's difficult to, we have not given up, but we are trying to see how best we can do to deal with them. But if we can embed it as sort of culture change in the primary school, come all the way up, if they can know that joining a gang is bad, the average life of a gangster is about 25 years. And if we can have them understand that, and if we can help them to understand that getting a good education, getting a good skill in school, it will help you to be that man or that woman that you want to be. It's better than joining a gang, because after certain time, you are going to be cut down one way or another. So this is the message that we want. This is what we want to sustain. And we are going to be in the schools. So beyond this 1 week, we are going to continue the work in the schools to ensure that we engender this culture change from the toddler straight up through the high school.
I have a good feel for this. I'm encouraged because it's through education and it can't come nowhere else.
It has to be education.
And it's taking it from an earlier stage in the schools. Yeah. So therefore, at least they would have got the message sometime or the other. Yes. And guess what? They can take home the message. Because the message is not necessarily coming from the home where we want it to come from. It is coming from those who are established and have so-called nuclear families. But the message must come through education. And I want to thank you both, gentlemen, and I'm going to put you on the spot. In that, say around January or so, we'll come back, and you're going to tell me that of the 246 active gangs, we'll have like 20 left. And you will tell me, Mr. Minto, that the children just want to learn about this thing and want to do nothing else about it. And here's hoping that it will all be successful. I want to thank you both. We chances are your jobs are thankless. So let us, on behalf of JNN and all the viewers, thank you both for the jobs that you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
As we say, we thank you for your service. And this is where we end our program for today. Special thanks to our guests and to you, our viewers. Thanks also to our editorial and production teams. Join us again next time when we give you an insight into the story behind the story. I'm Michael Sharp. Pleasant viewing.